Guys, Canelo Alvarez absolutely dominated Callum Smith, which begs the question, really, who is next for him? We're discussing that right now. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So, Nick, typical, we normally talk about MMA, but as we said, when a big boxing match happens, we're also boxing fans, and we decide to cut videos on the big ones.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really get much bigger than Saul Canelo Alvarez.
Yeah.
And so he had a masterful performance last week. And guys, just as a side note, sorry, we're just getting this out. Unfortunately, I came down with COVID after the fight, so I had to isolate myself and not do this until I got a negative test. So better late than never, as they say. I'm recovered now, feeling good, and ready to bring you guys some more content. So
yeah, glad it didn't affect him too bad.
That's right. I just can't smell anything. But other than that, hopefully that comes back soon enough.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, so back to Canelo and that really excellent performance. You know, it's so funny at the weigh-ins because you look at Callum Smith and he's 6'3", very tall, very rangy, big reach advantage, and you look at Canelo and it almost looked like this is a joke. This is like two guys that are so far apart size-wise, even though they're going to weigh in at or around the same weight. But it just goes to show you that Canelo he's able to adapt. He's continued to get better. And one thing I'm super impressed by is his defensive boxing ability. I think that has improved by leaps and bounds over the last few years.
Absolutely. In my opinion, right now, he's the pound-for-pound best boxer on the planet. I thought before the fight with Teofimo Lopez that Lomachenko was the best, and skillfully, he's right there with Canelo. I don't want to go as far as to say that, Canelo is doing many things that Lomachenko isn't or can't do, but as far as just a complete fighter, Canelo is checking all the boxes, and he's doing the things that most boxers don't ever do. And not only the boxers don't do it, the promoters won't even allow it. So when you see him moving up in weight continuously, taking on big challenges, great fighters, big fighters. Callum Smith is a great fighter,
undefeated
a
fighter,
great world champion. And to see him go in there and kind of outclass him was very impressive. And I think Canelo is right at smack dab in the middle of his prime, and we're going to see a few more years of some really cool work from him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's the best boxer on the planet right now, bar none. I did have Lomachenko up there as well. I also had Terrence Crawford up there. One thing that that Lomachenko showed us that he's not able to do, and I don't think that Terrence Crawford could do it either, is to step up 2, 3, 4 weight classes and continue to dominate in that fashion. You know, I'm not sure that if Terrence Crawford fought at 154 or 160, he would be having the same amount of success that he's having at 140 and 147. So Canelo seems to have his power translates, his boxing ability, his ability to walk down an opponent, even an opponent that's multiple weight classes heavier than him, translates. And so for those reasons, I do have him as the best boxer in the world right now. And as you said, he's right smack dab in the middle of his prime. This was supposed to be a really tough challenge. A guy with substantial reach advantage, super crisp boxing ability, an undefeated record, a true world champion, and he just looked like he had no business being in there with Canelo. Canelo was able to walk him down, impose his will, hurt him, deplete his gas tank with incredible body shots. But more than that, I was so impressed at Canelo's ability to make really skilled boxers miss. We know that every great Mexican boxer has that, stand in a phone booth and trade sort of warrior spirit. And Canelo definitely has that, and he's shown that in some of his fights. But I'm more so impressed by his ability to slip and counter and just be in and out of range at his will and engage on his terms. I think he's doing that better than anybody in the game right now.
Yeah, for sure. And he causes a lot of problems for fighters like Callum Smith. Callum Smith didn't really do anything wrong. He was actually fighting a pretty good fight, when he was constantly having to move back because Canelo was pressing the fight. It made for him having to use his range, and really, in my opinion, that's one of the hardest things to do, even when you do have the size advantage like he had. It was just hard to throw those jabs out all night long, especially when somebody like Canelo is slipping and rolling and getting out of the way of all of them. He'll pull back a lot. Very difficult, and when you're trying to punch down on somebody, you would think it'd be a little easier, and it is, I'd say, easier to punch down than it is to punch up, but it's one of those weird things where Canelo's not too short to where he can't score over top of Callum Smith. So when you'd see his arm go down, the first rule in boxing is take your hand. After you punch it, send it right back to your face. But when you send it down, then it has a further a further track to come back to your face. So you'd see him miss, and then Canelo come over top, and then obviously he was great, masterful with the body work, and the charge forward and slip and use his head and head movement to get out of the way is what made it look so impressive. And I'm super excited to see what he does next because who knows where he's going to go.
Yeah, when you talk about the ability the conventional wisdom is that punching down is easier than punching up, and that is probably true. But when you look at Mike Tyson back in his heyday, he was able to catch people with some of those overhands and really punish the body because they would punch down, and as you said, as they're bringing the hand back up, bam, overhand, and then boom, boom, he's working the body, which causes the hands to drop a little bit. Canelo does a really good job of that, and he really beat Callum up. I thought that Canelo was going to win. I predicted him to win the fight, but I did think the fight would be a lot closer than it was, maybe majority decision, maybe unanimous decision, but a little bit closer on the scorecards. But that was a beginning to end domination. And then it really kind of begs the question, who's next for Canelo? He's shown that he can go up to 175 and be effective, although Sergey Kovalev is kind of reaching the end of his career. But nevertheless, a dominating win over Sergey Kovalev is a very impressive thing. People are talking about the Charlo brothers, and as much as I love Houston's fighters, we live in Houston, I don't think either one of the Charlo boys want anything to do with Canelo Alvarez right now. Maybe they want the fight, but I don't see that fight as it sits right now being very competitive with either of the two. Caleb Plant's out there. I guess that would be the one who they're talking about might present the most, the biggest threat to Canelo. But I just think, man, that we're witnessing one of the top boxers out of Mexico in a very long time that is in his prime, and I just see the next couple of years being Canelo's years. And I love that he's taken his management into his own hands, his promotion kind of into his own hands. He parted ways with DAZN, but he can still go do a show on DAZN under his own terms. He parted ways with De La Hoya. And like you said, a lot of people, the biggest frustration in boxing is that people don't get to see the fights that they want to see.
Right.
And it's not because the fighter's not a warrior and doesn't want the fight. That's the misconception. Everybody says, oh, he's scared, he's running. 9 times out of 10, it's the management and the promotion that does that, not the fighter. Canelo has now taken the reins himself, and he's calling his own shots in a lot of ways. And I think he's going to say, who do you think can beat me? Is it Caleb Plant? Okay, I'm going to go beat him. Is it Jamal Charlo? Okay, I'm going to go beat him. Who is it? Somebody at 175? I'm going to go beat him. So I really love the approach he's taking, and I think that a lot of fighters that are up and comers should take notice and say, you know what? It's not losing. Losing is not the worst thing in the world. He lost to Floyd Mayweather. Not stepping up and taking the big challenges and giving the fans the fights that they want to see when they want to see them, when fighters are in their prime, is the worst thing in the world for a fighter.
Absolutely. And the promoters have been getting in the way. They're notorious for stopping fights and waiting till somebody gets out of their prime to give their guy that they're trying to build up. And for him to take his promotion into his own hands and basically remove one of the obstacles that between him and the fighters and the fights that he wants to make is a great thing. I think it's very smart on his part. He's going to do really well with it, and it gives him more freedom as a businessman, as an athlete, that he can bounce around and kind of do what he wants to do. I think one of the other top options for him is Gilberto Ramirez.
Yeah,
I think 40-0, 41-0 now. Looking very strong, very athletic, a long body like Callum Smith, but I think he would pose a little bit more offense and a few more threats for Canelo. I think it'd be a fun Mexican on Mexican type of fight. And I think at this point we need to start looking in these higher weight classes like 175 because there's no real point in Canelo going back down. I think his future is continuing to move in the direction it's been going.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing at 160 and below for Canelo in my opinion. And we just saw Gilberto Ramirez fight a very close friend of ours, Alfonso Lopez. And we know how good of a boxer Alfonso is. He is in his late 30s. He's almost 40 years old. But truly one of the best skillful boxers that we've ever worked with, we've ever seen. And we've seen him spar some people that are some big name people that people would recognize if we said their names. But, and he's been in there and outclassed some of them. So even though he's not as known in the boxing community, he does have a very good record. He is a very good boxer, and he did give some good rounds to Gilberto. But I was really impressed with Ramirez's ability to move, change angles, keep Alfonso against the ropes, and ultimately finish the fight. And what a great fight that was, by the way. Guys, if you haven't seen that, if you don't have Fight TV, go back and watch Alfonso Lopez versus Gilberto Ramirez. That is an excellent fight.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and so I think, and I will going back to what I said a few minutes ago, I don't even blame Canelo for the hold up in the Triple G situation. I think Canelo would have fought Triple G when Triple G was in his, prime as far as age goes. And I don't really, I think that was more De La Hoya DAZN than it was Canelo. However, they're talking about the trilogy now with Triple G, so we'll see where that goes. But this is a guy who fought Floyd Mayweather at 21 years old and followed all the rules that they laid out, because Floyd was clearly the A side. A bunch of, you're going to have to cut a bunch of weight, this, that, and the other thing. So Canelo has shown since his very early career that he's a game fighter. And now that he's got his career by his own hands, I think we're going to see him say, who do you guys think can beat me? And then go fight them. And I think Zurdo is a wonderful challenge. You're talking about a guy, also very tall like Caleb Plant. I think Gilberto was 6'1" or 6'2". And he's extremely skillful, got a crazy gas tank, comes forward. That's an excellent fight. I think people could really get behind that. But aside from things like that, where you're talking about him going up to 175 or, staying at 168 and fighting somebody there really is nothing exciting for him. He's going to have to start really looking and really thinking about how he wants to map out the next 5 or 6 fights of his career while he's in his true athletic prime.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the layout of boxing and the names right now, there's a big pile of great fighters and competitors in between 130 pounds and 147 pounds. And then there's some good names in the ones in between there in heavyweight, but it's not really anything competitive for Canelo. So then you go to heavyweight and they've got some great names up there, some of the bigger stars in the sport. So it's going to be hard. He's kind of in a weird area where he's beaten all the best already, and there's not really many more challenges for him. Yeah. But I think with the right promotion and with the right time, some people will get their names out there. They'll actually be able to prove that they are worthy of fighting and competing with Canelo, and we'll see some great fights get made that aren't really something that's sticking out to us right now.
Yeah.
A Triple G trilogy, you could sell that right now.
Yeah.
Triple G trilogy is a great fight. I think it does need to happen. I do think Canelo learned enough, and Triple G's grown in age a little bit too much for him to win that fight, but it would be one of the best fights Canelo could possibly have. Zurdo Ramirez, that's the one I'm hoping to see happen soon at 175. It'd be great. It'd be for a couple of titles, and then who knows what he's gonna do. But
here's one off the wall for you. We saw Alexander Usik go up to heavyweight, but he's spent most of his career at cruiserweight. He's not the biggest guy in the world for heavyweight. I wonder if he could cut enough weight to make a cruiserweight matchup happen, or even possibly a light heavyweight matchup happen. I don't really know what he walks around at or how big he is, but he's not very tall. And imagine if you could see that matchup made. That's the sort of stuff that entices me. Is okay, I don't know who would win that fight. Yeah. There's not many fights for Canelo right now where I don't say, yeah, Canelo has this, and I can give you 3 or 4 reasons as to why. Yeah. That one, the Gilberto Ramirez, I think is fantastic. Dimitri Bivol at 175, that would be incredible. But aside from these higher weight classes and the Triple G trilogy, that is a tongue twister, which would be more fun than it would be competitive, in my honest opinion. I do think Triple G won the first fight. But that was several years ago, and Canelo is now entered into his absolute prime. Triple G is on the back 9, and so I think that it would not be as competitive as the first 2, but it still would be fun. It's 2 huge names, and it would be a fun fight nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm way into that Usik fight. I think that would be a great one. That might be his toughest competition and makes the most sense.
Yeah, and I was sitting here thinking through possible opponents, and that popped in my mind. I didn't even really have that in mind before we started shooting this video. But I say, you know what, that actually would be a pretty good fight.
Yeah.
You know, and he's training with Andy Ruiz right now. His trainers are helping Andy Ruiz get the weight off, get a little bit more disciplined in hopes of a career comeback. You know, we saw him defy odds and knock out Anthony Joshua and then kind of fall off the wagons in terms of getting a bit undisciplined and, you know, gaining a little too much weight for that second fight. But Andy Ruiz looks pretty good right now. And you got to assume he's in there sparring with Canelo, and that's a heavyweight that knocked out Anthony Joshua. So who knows what Canelo is going to do next. I think he's a little too short for heavyweight to really go up there and try to do something there. But somebody like a Usik coming back down, I think, would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Yeah. And well, guys, let us know. What did you think about Canelo's performance against Callum? Who do you want to see him fight next? And are you happy with the part that he made with De La Hoya and DAZN? I think it was the right career move because he's a game fighter who does want to truly fight the best. So let us know in the comments. And as always, guys, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We mostly talk about MMA on this channel, but when there is a big boxing match, we always feel that it's appropriate to give it the credit that it deserves. So thank you so much for watching, to all you boxing fans out there. And check out our MMA stuff as well. Have a great day, guys. Until next time.
Peace.